the thing that can hurt keto the most is kind of what's happening right now, which is you have keto influencers that are just butchering the education on it.
When it comes to keto, what are some of the reasons on why, I mean, I guess you were probably part of it, but like, what are some of the reasons on why you think it like blew up so big just a couple years ago? And then also now maybe it has a bit of a decline.
Yeah. I don't know why it took off out of nowhere. It's funny because it's had been talked about like in the bodybuilding community for a long time, right? It just kind of took off out of nowhere, like 2016-ish. And then I'm trying to think if there was any specific call to action that made it explode.
Yeah, I remember there was like one of the most researched words on the internet for like maybe like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, well, and here's what we have to remember. So if you were to go to trends.google.com and look at the trends, you will see that to the naked eye, it looks like keto is on a decline. So there's been people talking about this, like, is keto dying? Is keto dying? No, it's reached somewhat critical mass is what's happening. So the analogy that I've explained is, think about it like this. If you're learning to drive a car, you're going to search how to drive a car. You're going to look because you're learning and it's new and it's something that you're trying to learn. Once you know how to drive the car, you're not searching for how to drive a car anymore. So that doesn't mean that for every notch that keto comes down on search indexing and for search volume, that doesn't mean that that's for every one person that drops off on search volume. It doesn't mean that's one person quitting keto. That means that's one less person that's searching how to do keto, because it's not that complicated. Keto does amazing things in the body, and I make it complicated because I want to dive deeper and deeper and deeper, but the basic fundamentals of keto are pretty damn easy. And once you've got it down, you don't need to be searching for how to do keto and this and that. So just because search volume is down, that doesn't mean the interest is down. It means new interest is down. So that means that as far as a growth model, growth engine, maybe it's not a good time to like try to like build something educational on keto. But I think productizing and stuff like that, I think you're still in a great spot. And I think that it's still gaining momentum. And I think it has more potential for a resurgence than it does going down. I think it might go down a little bit, but I don't think people are going to say that it's just gone for good. The thing that can hurt keto the most is kind of what's happening right now, which is you have keto influencers that are just like butchering the education on it and saying crazy things like, fat burns fat. And like, I get what you're saying, but that's not the big problem. The problem is like when you're discounting decades of peer-reviewed research to push one like keto agenda. And we're seeing a lot of that. That's what's going to be off-putting for people, because the more kind of spammy type stuff that is out there, the more that keto is going to get hated on. And I think if people were to approach keto as a tool in the toolbox rather than only an alternative, granted, it can be a perfect alternative lifestyle for people, like it was for me, until I realized that over time, it's just a better tool to use at times than it is to be like my alternative way of life. So that's not to say that it doesn't work like that, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are kind of making it so that it gets some bad juju around it. I don't necessarily want to be associated with a good majority of the keto crowd. And when I say the keto crowd, like I love them and I appreciate the fact that they are big on it, but who I want to be associated with is the leading researchers with it, with Oxford, who's doing great research with it, with Dom D'Agostino, the real credible individuals.
Pat Project family, I don't want you guys to continue looking dusty in your old gym clothes. That's why we've partnered with Viore Clothing. You see, I'm guilty of not wanting to wear these gyms to work out because they feel so good. So you guys need to head over there and just go check them out. This is the Stratotech tee. It's so comfortable. Let me just let you guys out. Andrew, how can people get it?
Yes, guys, you guys got to head over to viori.com/powerproject. VUORI.com/powerproject. Links to them down in the description below. Let's get back to the podcast.
Don't you think when it comes to keto that they're like, it's hard for me to put into words, but there does seem to be something like interesting and intriguing about it, maybe over other diets, but I don't know how to articulate it, but it just seems so different. I don't know what makes it so different, or why I feel that way necessarily. Well, I mean, I love the foods that are part of it because I like kind of like those kinds of foods that are higher in fat.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, that's like I've always been a bacon eggs kind of guy, but the biggest thing with keto that is pretty undeniable is the impact on the brain. So I think that, network stability, ability for regions of the brain to sort of communicate, that's pretty pronounced in the evidence. And I feel so good mentally on keto. It's hard to, again, we discount that a lot, right? Like I feel very strongly that mentally I am just a better person on keto. And that's what keeps me with keto more than anything else. If that part went away, I don't know if keto is what I would stick to all the time, because I don't think it's the holy grail for body composition. I think that it has its advantages, but as far as being stricter keto, getting ketone levels relatively high, it's all about the brain for me. That's just for doing what I do, to be able to articulate the stuff that I articulate and to be kind of thinking or speaking almost as fast as I'm thinking. That is where undeniably, I work better with keto. So even if I'm not keto, I will take the 3 days before I film, or 2 days, I can get into keto pretty quick. 2 days before I film, I'll go back into keto because it brings my brain straight. So I almost never will be filming on a day that I had carbs, practically never. And some people will say that's bullshit, your brain on carbs, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, tell that to me, because that's how I feel.
It's interesting too that it has a prerequisite. You can't, it takes a couple days just to even get into ketosis.
Yeah.
And for some people, if they're first starting out and they've never tried it before, it might take them 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, it's, I'm going to hold my thought on this analogy, this kind of metaphor thing for a minute, because it's really awesome. So I want to come back to it. So just remember the word train so you can remind me to come back to it. But back to kind of what you had said, what is different about it is, I think we discount the fact that when we get mental satisfaction out of something, we don't always recognize it and associate it. So when you take someone that's not super aware with their body, and all of a sudden they're just I feel really good, but I don't know why. That's going to be something that is that big differentiating factor for them. Maybe they've never experienced mental clarity before. And that is Pavlov's law, right? It's Pavlovian. I feel so good mentally when I do this, I'm just unconsciously going to keep going back to it. So keto just is that way for people. It's it feels good, and that's where I stand behind with it. And okay, so with the train thing, getting back into ketosis and stuff like that, if you take a train track, and a train track, goes into a Y, the train can go to the left or it can go to the right. And there's that big lever that you can pull, so someone gets out of the train, pulls the lever. To the left is carbohydrate utilization. To the right is fat utilization. Okay. If you're always going to the left, always going carb utilization, then that lever is going to be pretty rusty. And when you do try to switch over to fat utilization, you're going to have to get some WD-40, you're going to have to chip away some rust, and you're going to have to pull that lever fucking hard. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's going to make it so that finally that lever gets switched. Same thing if you've been doing keto for a long time. If you've been doing keto for a long time, your train's always going to the right, and the lever to move it to the left is getting a little bit rusty. But what happens if you do switch back and forth a lot? The lever is nice and smooth, and you can be dual fueled and you can move back and forth a lot. And so for me, I'm in keto a majority of the time, not a large majority, but like I said, 7-ish, 8-ish months out of the year or so. It varies. But so most of the time, by a small margin, I'm in keto, which means that I'm predominantly going to the right. I'm predominantly driving down that train path. But my lever is still pretty fluid. I can move to the left pretty quick. And that means when I do go on carbs, I can go back to keto and be fat adapted pretty quick because my lever is not having to get a bunch of freaking WD-40 and all that stuff.
Hey, wait, before you go, you got this far. That means that you've enjoyed the heat that we're continuing to bring you. So listen, like the video, comment something down below. We'll reply back and subscribe to the channel because we continue to bring you the heat. Seriously, do it. Love you. Bye.